Tonight, in the heart of a Beverly Hills mansion, a wealthy millionaire thought she was just having a little fun at the expense of her maid's teenage son. She mocked him, laughed at his background, and even invited him to play chess, as a joke. But what she didn't know was that this quiet boy, overlooked by the world, held a secret that would shock everyone in the room. In just a few moves, he would turn ridicule into awe, humiliation into respect, and prove a truth that money and privilege could never buy: talent, courage, and determination are worth far more than arrogance. Stay tuned, because what happens next is a story of genius, justice, and a lesson in humility that you won't forget. The chandeliers sparkled above the polished marble floors of Victoria Whitman's Beverly Hills mansion. Guests in designer gowns and tailored suits sipped champagne, their laughter tinged with the ease of privilege. Amid the glittering crowd moved Diego Santos, 17, quietly serving canapes alongside his mother, Carmen, the family's longtime maid. He kept his head down, his movements precise, while his dark eyes, sharp and observant, flicked around the room, taking note of every guest, every subtle smirk. Victoria Whitman, the event's hostess and a socialite notorious for her sharp tongue, had spotted Diego earlier. A mischievous idea formed. She turned to her husband, smiling with a spark of cruel amusement. "Bring the boy here," she said, her voice laced with condescension. "Let's see how he handles a real chessboard. In the slums, they probably think they're prodigies, don't they?" The room quieted slightly as Diego approached. Victoria gestured toward the Italian marble chessboard that gleamed under the soft lights. "Go on, show me how you play," she said. Her tone dripped with superiority. The assembled guests, business magnates, politicians, and their wives smiled discreetly behind crystal glasses, eager for what they assumed would be an entertaining display of amateur mistakes. Carmen's hands clenched around the silver tray she carried. 20 years of cleaning homes, raising her son alone on a maid's salary, and now her boy was being paraded as a curiosity for the amusement of the rich. She swallowed her frustration, forcing herself to remain calm as she watched her son step up to the board. Diego, however, seemed untouched by the subtle ridicule. He studied the board, then the people, his mind quietly cataloging each detail. At 17, he had learned that silence could speak louder than words. A stillness settled in the room, noticeable enough to make a few guests pause their laughter. Diego's fingers hovered over the pieces, unconsciously tracing potential moves, visualizing strategies invisible to everyone else. "Of course, Mrs. Whitman," Diego said, his voice calm and composed. "It will be my pleasure." Victoria reclined in her chair, satisfied. "Excellent. I bet you've never played on a board like this before, have you?" She barely noticed Congresswoman Jennifer Mills whisper, "Victoria, are you sure this isn't cruel?" The boy could be humiliated. "Nonsense," Victoria replied, adjusting her diamond earrings. "It's educational. A memorable experience for both of you." What Victoria didn't know, and what the room would soon discover, was that Diego Santos was no ordinary teenager. While his classmates spent hours on video games, Diego had spent 8 years studying chess obsessively, borrowing books from the public library, fixing a broken computer to watch grandmother games, memorizing over 200 openings and the 50 most famous defenses in chess history. He had built a mind honed for strategy. Tonight, that preparation would meet Victoria's ignorance head-on. Diego's dark eyes swept the room as Victoria theatrically arranged her pieces. It wasn't just a game he was preparing for. It was a demonstration of every assumption in that room being wrong. Victoria sat, confidently claiming the white pieces. "I always play white. Family tradition," she announced, ignoring standard rules that dictated choice by lot. Diego nodded silently and meticulously positioned the black pieces. Every piece centered perfectly on its marble square. Guests murmured among themselves. Mr. Hamilton, a hotel magnate who once played chess at university, frowned. There was a precision here that hinted at something far beyond casual play. Victoria opened with a conservative pawn move, e4. "A classic opening we learned at Harvard," she declared, a touch patronizing. Diego responded instantly, c5, the Sicilian defense. The room fell silent. This wasn't the move of someone fumbling through the basics, it was theory in action. Victoria played an f3, following patterns she vaguely remembered from lessons or social clubs. Diego countered d3 and c6, developing with speed and purpose. Each move was deliberate, executed in seconds, as if the boy's years of hidden study had been distilled into an unstoppable sequence. "Too fast," Victoria muttered to her guests. "Real players think before they move." Diego paused just long enough to feign contemplation, then played g6, a seemingly simple fianchetto. But it was part of a multi-step plan that would unfold over the next several moves. "Look," Victoria whispered, triumphantly pointing at Diego. "He doesn't have patience." Hamilton leaned in. "No, Victoria. He's setting up a dragon variation." A complex Sicilian line. Victoria waved her hand dismissively. "He must have seen it in a movie." "That's impossible." Diego moved with silent precision, each development harmonizing the board. Guests leaned in. Carmen's heart raced. She had never seen him command the board like this, and for the first time in 20 years. She saw a flicker of uncertainty in Victoria Whitman's expression, a subtle but unmistakable fear that she might not be as superior as she always believed. Victoria's 10th move revealed her first mistake. She had been reacting, not thinking strategically. Diego had anticipated her every response, a trap lying in wait for her ignorance. Hamilton whispered urgently, "Victoria, this boy is no amateur." Victoria barely heard him, too focused on preserving pride. Diego, however, rose calmly, walking over to his mother. "Mom," he said softly, "remember when you told me one day I'd show people who we really are?" Carmen nodded, tears welling in her eyes. It was the day Diego had promised to change everything, even when their life offered little hope. Returning to the board, Diego's next moves were flawless. A double threat materialized on the board. Protect your king and lose the queen. Protect the queen and face checkmate. Victoria's hands shook slightly, not from fear but from suppressed rage. The room watched in stunned silence as Diego executed a queen maneuver that offered 3 separate winning lines simultaneously. Checkmate was imminent. Victoria's face betrayed disbelief. "You must have seen that somewhere," she said. Trembling, Diego smiled faintly. "I studied all of Kasparov's documented games. 183 in total. I learned from history, not movies." Carmen stepped forward, voice firm. "My son studied every day before school, walked miles to the library, and solved problems by candlelight when we couldn't afford electricity." The room went silent. The guests, who had expected amusement, now faced admiration. Diego's calm, measured checkmate revealed the years of dedication behind those youthful eyes. Victoria Whitman sat in stunned silence, her arrogance dismantled piece by piece. "Thanks for the game, Ms. Whitman," Diego said softly, arranging the final pieces. It was educational. As mother and son left, Congresswoman Mills called out, "Diego, are you interested in scholarships? Universities would love someone like you." Diego paused, smiled genuinely for the first time, and replied, "Very interested." "Ma'am." Victoria remained frozen, alone in her empty mansion, slowly realizing that the child she had intended to humiliate had instead rewritten every assumption she and her peers held about talent, class, and respect. The tension in the room thickened as Diego and Victoria faced each other across the marble chessboard. What had begun as a social display, a petty joke to entertain the rich, had transformed into a quiet battlefield of intellect and strategy. Each move carried not just the game but the weight of years of expectation, prejudice, and untold effort. Victoria, still clutching her composure, advanced a knight aggressively, trying to unsettle Diego. "Watch closely, everyone," she whispered to the guests. "This is how you play with real experience." But Diego's eyes betrayed no surprise. His mind was already several moves ahead, predicting every attempt she would make to regain control. He moved swiftly, almost imperceptibly, positioning his pieces like a master conductor arranging a symphony. The Sicilian dragon he had subtly established earlier was now coming into full force, and only someone well-versed could even recognize the pattern. The room's laughter had vanished. Murmurs of disbelief replaced it. Mr. Hamilton leaned forward, whispering urgently to his wife, "She's in trouble. He's orchestrating a multi-step trap that even I didn't anticipate." Congresswoman Mills, who had been recording discreetly, knew the moment was viral gold. The unfolding scene had everything: a young prodigy, arrogant privilege, and the dramatic unraveling of someone who underestimated him. Victoria's confidence began to waver. Each of Diego's moves closed options she thought were safe. Her fingers hovered over pieces with hesitation she had never known, her training and social polish suddenly powerless against raw talent and preparation. Diego, noticing her tension, allowed himself a subtle pause, just long enough to seem contemplative, but in reality, it was a calculated psychological tactic. He wanted Victoria to think she had a chance, just enough to lull her into underestimating the depth of his strategy. "Interesting," she muttered under her breath as he moved his bishop to fianchetto position. A maneuver she hadn't considered. The Sicilian dragon was now fully formed, a lethal trap awaiting activation. Hamilton's eyes widened. "Victoria, stop. That move is dangerous. He's setting you up." But she was too caught in her own pride. "He must have memorized some trick from a book or a friend," she said dismissively. Though her voice trembled slightly, Diego calmly executed a series of precise moves. Knights coordinated with bishops, pawns controlled critical squares, and the queen remained poised, hidden behind subtle defenses. Every piece had a purpose, every placement a silent message of experience, study, and discipline. Carmen watched, breathless, as the young man she had raised with love and patience dismantled the arrogance that had haunted her for decades. She remembered the nights Diego spent hunched over library books, the mornings waking at 5 to solve chess problems, the miles he walked just to access knowledge no one else in his neighborhood cared about. Victoria tried desperately to counter, but each attack only opened new vulnerabilities. Her queen, once a symbol of social superiority, now stood in danger. Her eyes darted around the room, seeking allies, validation. Anything but the faces she encountered reflected shock and growing respect for Diego. Not her. The decisive moment arrived when Diego's strategy fully revealed itself. He advanced his queen, offering not just one, but 3 simultaneous threats: checkmate paths, queen capture traps, and positions that would corner Victoria no matter her response. The room went silent. No one dared breathe. Victoria's face drained of color. "No, that's impossible," she whispered. Every piece she moved seemed anticipated. Every defense countered. The years of her social superiority meant nothing here. She had assumed her privilege would shield her, yet a teenager's intellect was proving otherwise. Diego leaned back slightly, his calm aura unshaken. "Checkmate," he said simply, moving his queen into position. The words echoed through the room like a final bell. Carmen stepped forward, her voice steady and proud. "My son woke up at 5 every morning. He walked miles to study, solved problems by candlelight, and never sought shortcuts. This is the result of dedication, not privilege." Guests, once entertained by a slum boy's attempt, now watched in admiration. Hamilton, visibly impressed, murmured, "I've never seen someone execute a plan so flawlessly." "She has been completely outplayed." Congresswoman Mills lowered her phone. Having captured the raw humiliation and brilliance of the moment, Victoria trembled. A mix of fury, disbelief, and embarrassment overtaking her. Her world, where money and status dictated respect, had crumbled. She had invited Diego as a joke, expecting mockery and compliance, but instead, she had become the spectacle. Diego, noticing her trembling, offered no gloating, only quiet dignity. "I never aimed to humiliate you," he said calmly, his voice carrying the poise of someone who had spent years mastering both strategy and self-control. "I simply played the game." A collective realization settled over the room. True skill and character are not bought. They are earned. The powerful learned it tonight in a way they would not soon forget. Victoria, still seated, struggled to speak. You must have had training. Someone taught you to play like this." Diego's smile, faint but confident, held no malice. "No one trained me to defeat you, Mum. I learned from study, persistence, and respect for the game. 8 years of practice, nothing more." The room remained silent. Even the most judgmental guests understood that privilege had failed to conquer diligence and intelligence. Victoria's humiliation was complete, and yet Diego's quiet composure transformed the moment from revenge to inspiration. Carmen, finally free from decades of silent observation, held her head high. For the first time in 20 years, she faced Victoria without lowering herself. "My son's abilities are not for ridicule," she said firmly. "They are proof that respect is earned, not assumed." Diego gathered his pieces, arranging them meticulously one final time. "Thank you for the game," he said, his tone even and composed. "It was educational for all of us." As they left the mansion, Congresswoman Mills called out with opportunity, "Diego, are you interested in scholarships? Universities would love someone with your talent." He paused, smiled genuinely, and replied, "Very interested." "Ma'am." Victoria remained frozen, alone in her mansion, her arrogance shattered, her social dominance publicly questioned, and the lesson painfully clear. Talent, character, and dedication cannot be underestimated, regardless of origin or status. The mansion felt empty after Diego and Carmen departed. The guests, Once amused spectators now exchanged awkward glances. Some nodded silently in approval of Diego's skill, others quietly reflected on their own assumptions. The air that had been filled with laughter and self-satisfaction was replaced by a profound, almost tangible silence. Victoria Whitman remained frozen in her chair, staring at the chessboard as if it could somehow erase what had happened. Her carefully constructed image of control and superiority had crumbled. For the first time, she felt the sting of being outclassed not by wealth, not by connections, but by pure talent and hard work. Diego's victory was more than a win on the board. It was a declaration that effort, intelligence, and perseverance outweigh privilege and prejudice. He had not sought revenge. He had simply demonstrated his abilities with dignity, precision, and restraint. Every guest in that room had witnessed not just a chess match, but a powerful lesson in humility and fairness. Congresswoman Mills stepped forward, catching Diego as he exited the mansion. "Diego, that was incredible," she said. "Universities would jump at the chance to have someone like you. Interested in scholarships?" Diego's face brightened with a genuine smile. "Absolutely, ma'am." That small exchange marked the beginning of a new chapter in his life, one full of opportunities previously unimaginable. Carmen walked beside her son, pride swelling in her chest. She had endured years of being overlooked, underestimated, and undervalued. Watching Diego command respect not through wealth, but through intelligence and dedication, was a vindication of all those sacrifices. "You've shown them, Diego," she said softly. "You've shown everyone what true talent looks like." The ripple effect of that evening spread far beyond the walls of the mansion. A video of the match, discreetly recorded by Congresswoman Mills, went viral. Headlines like "Teen Prodigy destroys privileged millionaire in chess" dominated social media. Millions watched in awe as Diego, a young man from humble beginnings, outplayed a wealthy, arrogant hostess in her own home. Comments flooded in, celebrating his skill and dedication while condemning Victoria's condescension. Victoria Whitman's social standing began to erode almost immediately. Invitations disappeared, memberships were canceled, and charitable organizations distanced themselves from her. The people who had once celebrated her now saw the stark contrast between arrogance and true accomplishment. Even longtime friends, like Mr. Hamilton, avoided her at gatherings, offering subtle reminders of the lesson she had learned too late. Privilege alone does not command respect. Meanwhile, Diego's life transformed. He received full scholarships to prestigious universities, including Stanford, where he pursued engineering. His story inspired others, especially young people from underprivileged communities, showing that diligence and talent could transcend social and economic barriers. Not content with personal success alone, Diego founded an online chess program connecting students from underserved neighborhoods with college mentors. Within 6 months, over 1,000 children were learning not only chess strategies but also life lessons in discipline, perseverance, and self-belief. Diego's vision was clear: to turn obstacles into opportunities, to transform adversity into empowerment. Reflecting on the night, Diego said in an interview, "Chess taught me that every person has unique strategic value. Victoria Whitman taught me that some people need to lose everything to learn what really matters. Grudges are pieces that only get in the way of the game. I focus on what I can build, not what others try to break." Carmen, now promoted to a supervisory role at a 5-star hotel, finally received the recognition she deserved. Her years of dedication, skill, and professionalism were acknowledged, and she enjoyed stability, respect, and benefits that had long eluded her. Victoria, left alone in her mansion, had ample time to reflect. She realized that her attempt to demean Diego had backfired spectacularly. He had not only defeated her on the chessboard, but had also exposed the limitations of her worldview. Money could buy luxury, but it could not buy character, intelligence, or respect. Diego Santos' story became a symbol of resilience and the power of merit. In a world often dominated by status and privilege, he proved that true greatness is forged through effort, integrity, and a relentless pursuit of knowledge. Years later, when he looked back, Diego saw that night not as a confrontation, but as a turning point. The humiliation Victoria attempted to impose became the catalyst for a journey of growth, influence, and inspiration. By embracing his abilities and refusing to let prejudice define him, Diego had rewritten not only his own life but the lives of countless others. The lesson was simple yet profound. Greatness is not inherited, it is earned. Respect is not demanded, it is deserved. And the most powerful victories are those that elevate others while staying true to oneself. In the end, Victoria Whitman remained a cautionary tale of arrogance, while Diego Santos emerged as a beacon of hope, proving that determination, intelligence, and character will always outshine wealth, privilege, and prejudice. The chessboard had been more than a game, it was a stage where injustice met justice, where dedication triumphed over condescension, and where a young man's quiet genius forever changed the narrative of who truly deserves to be called victorious. And that's how Diego Santos turned a moment of humiliation into a story of triumph, proving that talent, perseverance, and character always outweigh privilege and prejudice. From a quiet library in a humble neighborhood to the grand halls of Stanford, Diego showed the world that greatness isn't inherited, it's earned through hard work, dedication, and believing in yourself. If Diego's story inspired you, hit that like button to celebrate determination over arrogance. Don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell so you never miss another story of courage, resilience, and triumph against all odds. Share this video with someone who needs a reminder that true power comes from character, not wealth. Remember, life is a game, and every move counts. Make yours extraordinary.